It started with a moment of silence. Not the peaceful, comfortable kind where two people are content in their own space, but the kind where the absence of words feels more deafening than any argument ever could. You know, the type of silence that stretches across days, weeks, and eventually feels like it's been there all along. It's that moment when you realize you're not in a partnership anymore. You're just two people living in the same space, breathing the same air, but nothing truly connects you anymore. And that's when I knew. Something had changed. I didn't need her to say it. I could feel it in every step she took, every sentence she left unfinished. It wasn't the kind of change you could spot immediately, but after weeks of feeling like a stranger in my own home, the truth finally hit me like a cold wave. We were drifting apart, and there was no clear reason why. The first sign of it came subtly. It was one of those nights where I got home late from work, my shift dragged on, and I was exhausted. I had been working nonstop, trying to stay ahead of the game, and I thought, today's the day. I'm going to surprise her with dinner. Maybe something simple, but special. She'd been working extra hours too, and I figured we both deserved a break from the chaos of our jobs. But when I opened the door, it wasn't the warmth of her smile that greeted me. It wasn't her calling out from the kitchen, asking how my day went. It was quiet. The kind of quiet where you start questioning everything around you, wondering if you're even in the right house. I placed my keys on the counter, my stomach twisting as I called out, "Lena?" Nothing. Not a sound. A few seconds later, she walked out of the bedroom, dressed in something I didn't recognize. Not that I hadn't seen her in casual clothes before, but it just didn't feel like her. She seemed distant, almost like she was a version of herself I wasn't familiar with. Her face was tired, but her eyes didn't meet mine. It was like she was looking past me, or maybe through me. "Hey," I said, trying to shake off the weird vibe I was feeling. "How was your day?" She nodded slowly, still not making eye contact. "Busy. You know how it is." I could feel my heart skip a beat. There it was again, that cold, emotionless tone. A tone I hadn't heard from her in years. It wasn't just exhaustion in her voice. It was something else. A wall. A wall I couldn't break down. "Yeah, I know," I said, trying to make light of it. "I made dinner. Thought we could relax tonight. It's been a hell of a week." Lena didn't react. She didn't even look at the food I had prepared. Instead, she walked past me, headed toward the couch. I stood there, stunned, for a moment, feeling like the world was spinning around me. Why didn't she care? Why didn't she even acknowledge the effort I'd put in? I followed her, sitting beside her, unsure of what to say. The silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. She had her phone in her hand, her face illuminated by the screen, scrolling through something, anything, to avoid me. "Lena," I started, my voice quieter than I intended. "Are we okay?" She didn't look up from her phone. "Yeah, Simon. We're fine." But something in the way she said it made the word "fine" feel like a death sentence. It wasn't reassuring, it was hollow. I took a deep breath, trying to hold on to whatever semblance of control I had left. "You know, I've been feeling like, I don't know, like you're pulling away from me. I get that work has been crazy, but we've barely talked lately. It's like we're two strangers under the same roof." Her fingers paused on the phone screen. She slowly looked at me, but it wasn't the look I was hoping for. There was no concern, no love, no care. Just exhaustion and indifference. "I'm just tired, Simon," she said, her voice flat. "You wouldn't understand." I felt a knot tighten in my chest. What did that even mean? I wouldn't understand. I was tired too. I was trying. But that's when it hit me. This wasn't about me not understanding her. It was about her not even trying to understand me anymore. This wasn't about exhaustion or busy schedules. This was about something deeper. I don't know how long we sat there in silence. But I remember looking at her, really looking at her, and seeing how distant she had become. The woman I married, the woman I thought I knew, was slipping away, and I had no idea why. The next few weeks felt like a slow burn. It wasn't like we were fighting every day. No, it wasn't that simple. It was more like the space between us was growing, inch by inch, until one day it was a chasm that felt impossible to cross. And no matter how many times I tried to bridge that gap, it seemed to widen every time. It started with little things. I noticed Lena wasn't as responsive when I tried to talk about my day. When I'd share something exciting or frustrating that happened at work, she'd give me a quick, disinterested, "That's nice," or "Sorry to hear that," and then quickly retreat into whatever task she was busy with. I couldn't tell if she was just tired, overwhelmed, or if she was avoiding me on purpose. I tried not to let it bother me at first. I told myself she was just dealing with her own stress, that maybe I was reading too much into things. After all, work had been crazy for both of us. But the more I tried to engage with her, the more distant she became. I could feel her withdrawing, like I was speaking to a stranger in my own home. One night, about 3 weeks after the quiet dinner incident, I decided to confront her. It wasn't something I wanted to do, but I couldn't keep pretending like everything was fine. We were lying in bed, both of us scrolling through our phones in the dim light. The only sound was the occasional click of her fingers tapping against the screen. My heart was racing, but I couldn't let the silence hang there any longer. "Lena," I said, my voice shaking slightly. "Can we talk?" She didn't look up. "About what?" "This, us. You've been so distant lately, and I just don't understand. What's going on? Are you unhappy? Is it work? Or is it me?" For a moment, there was no response. Just that same cold silence. Then, she sighed, placing her phone face down on the nightstand and finally looking at me. "Simon, it's not you," she said, her voice low and tired. I don't know. I feel like we're stuck in a rut, and I can't keep pretending like everything is okay when it's not." I could feel my stomach drop. Stuck in a rut? That was the last thing I expected to hear. It felt like I was being hit with a punch I didn't see coming. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to steady my voice. "We're stuck because you've been shutting me out. I don't even know who you are anymore, Lena. You don't talk to me like you used to. You don't even look at me the same." She turned her head, looking away for a moment, as though she were searching for the right words. I don't feel like I'm getting what I need from this relationship anymore, Simon. I need more than what we've been giving each other." I didn't know what to say. For the first time in months, I was speechless. "What do you mean, more? What have I been missing? I'm doing everything I can to make you happy." She shook her head slowly. "It's not just about doing things. It's about feeling like we're connected. Like we're partners again. We've both changed, Simon, and not for the better." I felt the weight of her words crash down on me. Was I blind to this? Had I missed all the signs? I thought I was trying. I thought I was being supportive, understanding. But maybe that wasn't enough. She sighed again, her shoulders slumping as she looked at me. "I'm sorry, Simon. I don't know how to explain it, but it feels like we're just coexisting. Like we're roommates with a shared history, but not much else." I swallowed hard, trying to digest her words. "So, what do we do about it?" "I don't know," she whispered. I think I need some space. Time to figure out what I really want." Space. There it was again. That word that sent a chill down my spine every time she said it. "You need space?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She nodded, turning her face back toward the pillow. "Yeah, I think we both do. Maybe we've been so focused on keeping up appearances, on making everything look perfect, that we forgot what it was like to just be with each other." I didn't know how to respond. I felt like the world had just been ripped out from under me. How did we get here? Was this really the end of everything we built? I spent the next few days in a fog, trying to process what Lena had said. I went to work, came home, and kept pretending like nothing was wrong. But inside, I was slowly falling apart. Every day, I noticed the small things, the way she didn't reach for my hand when we were out for a walk, the way she'd leave early in the morning without saying goodbye, the way her eyes seemed distant, even when she was sitting right next to me. I thought about what she had said. "We've both changed." And I realized that maybe she was right. We had, but in ways I couldn't even understand. The worst part? I was starting to wonder if there was anything left to fix. Would the space between us always be this wide? Or had we crossed a point of no return? The silence between us became suffocating. It wasn't the kind of silence you could ignore. It was a loud, almost oppressive silence, hanging over every conversation, every glance, and every moment we shared. I kept wondering how we had gotten here. How, just a few months ago, I was still waking up next to the woman I had promised to spend my life with. Now, it felt like she was a ghost of the person I once knew. After that night, when Lena told me she needed space, things didn't improve. If anything, they got worse. She'd retreat further into herself, sometimes disappearing for hours without explanation. I found myself walking around the apartment, staring at the empty spaces, wondering if she was really in the room at all. Her presence, once a comforting constant, now felt distant and foreign. One night, about a week after that conversation, I returned home late from a meeting. The apartment was eerily quiet. No dinner waiting on the table, no soft hum of the TV in the background. Just the stillness of an empty home. My stomach twisted. I didn't know why, but I had this horrible gut feeling that something was wrong. Something was going on that I couldn't see. I checked the kitchen. Nothing. The bedroom door was slightly ajar, but she wasn't there either. I tried calling her phone, but it went straight to voicemail. That's when the creeping suspicion began to turn into something darker. I tried to shake it off, but the knot in my stomach only grew tighter. I went to the bathroom, splashing water on my face, trying to clear my head. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't recognize myself. The man staring back at me was a stranger, his face gaunt, his eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep, his mind racing with thoughts of what had been slipping away from him. My marriage, my trust, the woman I loved. Suddenly, I heard the front door open. I froze. Lena walked in, a little disheveled, her face flushed. She seemed startled to see me standing there in the hallway. But there was something in her eyes, a flicker of guilt? I wasn't sure. "Where have you been?" I asked, my voice shaky despite my best efforts to sound casual. She looked at me for a long moment before shrugging. "Just out. Getting some air." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But that voice inside me, the one I had been ignoring for weeks, was screaming at me that something wasn't right. "Out where?" I pressed. "It's almost midnight, Lena. Where did you go?" Her eyes narrowed, and for the first time, I saw the anger flash across her face. "Why do you always have to question me?" she snapped. "I'm an adult. I don't owe you explanations." Her words hit me harder than I expected. For a second, I just stood there, trying to process what she had said. This wasn't the Lena I knew. She had always been open with me, willing to share her day, her thoughts, her feelings. Now, it felt like she was shutting me out, building a wall between us that I couldn't climb over. "I'm not trying to control you, Lena," I said, my voice trembling. "I'm just trying to understand. I want to know what's going on with you. With us." She looked at me for a long moment, her face softening, but only slightly. "I just need space, Simon. I told you that." "And what does that mean?" I asked, my frustration bubbling over. "What does space even mean if we can't talk about things? If you can't even tell me where you've been? This isn't just about space anymore, Lena. It's about something bigger." She flinched at my words, her eyes darting away from mine. But I wasn't done. "You're pushing me away, and I don't know why. I don't know if you even care about us anymore." Her silence was deafening. She didn't answer me. She didn't have to. The look in her eyes, the way her lips trembled, said everything. She was hiding something. And the thought that she was willing to keep it from me shattered something inside of me. I wasn't just losing my wife. I was losing her trust. And that was the one thing I thought we could always count on. "I'm sorry, Simon," she said, almost too quietly to hear. "I just can't talk about this right now." But I couldn't let it go. "You have to talk about it, Lena," I said, my voice rising. "I can't keep living like this. I can't keep pretending everything's fine when it's not." She stood there, her arms folded, looking at the floor. She seemed smaller somehow, like all the weight of the world was resting on her shoulders. And in that moment, I realized that I wasn't the only one who was falling apart. She was too. "I don't know how to fix this," she whispered. "I don't know if I can." The words hit me like a punch in the gut. I had never seen her so vulnerable, so broken. And in that instant, I felt a mix of fear and heartbreak wash over me. I didn't know what she meant by that, but the implications were terrifying. Could it really be that we were beyond repair? She turned away, her shoulders shaking as she walked into the bedroom. I stood there for a moment, trying to process everything, but I couldn't. It felt like I was drowning in uncertainty, and no matter how hard I tried to keep my head above water, I was sinking deeper. I knew I had to face the truth. I knew something was wrong, something I hadn't fully understood until now. But the more I dug, the more the questions kept multiplying. Was this a marriage on the verge of collapse? Or was I just too blind to see the truth that had been staring me in the face all along? The next few days felt like a strange game we were both playing, though I wasn't sure what the rules were anymore. Lena still kept her distance, physically and emotionally. It was as if the woman I married had been replaced by someone else, someone I didn't understand, someone who kept evading me no matter how hard I tried to reach her. I started noticing little things that I hadn't paid attention to before, things that made my stomach churn with a creeping suspicion. Her phone, for instance. She never used to hide it. always leaving it on the kitchen counter or on the couch when she wasn't around. But now, she would always take it with her, even to the bathroom. If I ever caught a glimpse of it, the screen would be locked, her fingers quickly swiping it out of view. I tried not to think too much about it, but I couldn't help myself. That little voice in my head kept whispering that something wasn't right. And then came the night that would change everything. It was a Friday, and I had planned to stay late at work. But when I got home at around 10 p.m., I could tell something had shifted. The lights were dimmed, and the TV was on, but Lena wasn't sitting on the couch like she usually was. I found her in the kitchen, her back turned to me as she stood at the counter, her phone pressed to her ear. "Yeah, I know. I'll be there in 20 minutes, she said, her voice casual, though there was something in the tone that made my stomach twist. "I'll just finish up here, and then I'll head out." My heart skipped a beat. "Head out? Who are you meeting?" I asked before I could stop myself. Lena turned around quickly, her eyes wide with surprise, like she hadn't expected me to come home so soon. "Oh, it's nothing. Just a friend from work. I told you about her before, remember?" I nodded, trying to push away the feeling that something wasn't adding up. "Right. But it's late, Lena. What's going on?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she turned back to the counter, fiddling with her phone. "I'll be fine, Simon. You don't need to worry about me." But I couldn't shake the unease settling in my chest. I watched as she finished what she was doing, not bothering to explain what was so urgent about her meeting. I asked her if she was sure she was okay, but she just shrugged it off, saying, "Yeah, I'm fine. Really, I just need to get out for a while, clear my head." I tried to let it go, though every instinct in me was screaming to ask more questions, to dig deeper. But I didn't. Maybe it was the fear of hearing something I wasn't ready to hear, or maybe it was the hope that things would somehow go back to normal. But they didn't. As soon as she left, I found myself pacing the apartment, feeling a strange mix of frustration and helplessness. I couldn't shake the feeling that Lena was hiding something from me, something bigger than just her need for space. And whatever it was, I wasn't sure if I was ready to confront it. That night, I stayed up late, unable to sleep, my mind racing. I kept replaying everything she had said in my head, searching for any clue, any sign that would help me understand what was really going on. It wasn't until I picked up her phone, almost without thinking, that I realized I couldn't keep pretending anymore. I had to know. I stared at the screen, my fingers hovering over the lock. I knew it wasn't right to go through her things, but I was desperate. I needed answers. So, with shaky hands, I unlocked her phone. What I found made my blood run cold. There, in her messages, was a conversation with someone named Ethan, a name I didn't recognize. The messages were recent, the kind that suggested a closeness I didn't expect. "Can't wait to see you tonight. I've missed you," one message read. Another followed. "I wish we didn't have to keep this secret, but it's worth it." My heart stopped. I stared at the screen, trying to make sense of what I was reading. I knew I shouldn't have been looking, but at that moment, I didn't care. The truth hit me like a slap in the face. My wife, the woman I had trusted more than anyone, was hiding something, someone, right under my nose. The realization settled in slowly, painfully. I wasn't sure what hurt more, the betrayal of her secrecy or the gut-wrenching feeling that I had been living in the dark for so long, oblivious to what was really happening. I felt sick. I put the phone down and sank onto the couch, trying to steady my breath. But it was like the world had shifted beneath my feet. I couldn't just pretend everything was fine anymore. And when Lena came back home that night, her eyes avoiding mine, I knew the confrontation was inevitable. It wasn't a matter of if, but when. And when it came, I had no idea how I was going to look her in the eye and ask the questions that had been building up inside me. The night felt like a blur as Lena walked in, her presence in the doorway almost too familiar and yet completely foreign at the same time. She didn't see me immediately. She was too busy taking off her jacket, too focused on her phone as she absent-mindedly tossed it onto the counter. The same phone I had just scrolled through, the same phone that had shattered the fragile illusion I'd been clinging to. I sat on the couch, waiting for her to look at me, to say something, anything. But she didn't. Instead, she moved to the kitchen like she had every other night, as though nothing had changed. As though I hadn't just discovered a conversation that felt like the bottom of my world had dropped out from beneath me. I stood up, my legs feeling heavier than they ever had before. My throat was tight with the questions I knew I had to ask, but I couldn't find the words. For a moment, Everything around me blurred. The sound of the fridge opening, the faint hum of the apartment, all becoming muffled as my thoughts collided. Finally, I found my voice. Lena. She froze mid-motion, her back still to me. For a moment, I thought she hadn't heard me. But then, slowly, she turned around, the same coldness in her eyes that had been there for weeks. Yeah, she asked casually, as though I wasn't about to shatter everything. I could feel the anger bubbling inside me, but it was a strange kind of anger, part disbelief, part confusion, and a larger part heartbreak. How could she stand there, looking so composed, when everything had changed? How could she stand there and not acknowledge the massive weight of the lies hanging in the air? Who is Ethan? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, but it felt like the room was shaking with the force of my words. Her expression shifted, just slightly, but it was enough. The flicker of panic in her eyes gave her away, but she quickly masked it, turning her head slightly as though considering her answer. That's nobody, Simon, she said, her voice strained. It's just someone from work. Someone I've been talking to about projects. I shook my head, the words barely forming in my mouth. Don't lie to me, Lena. I saw the messages. I know what's been going on. I could feel my chest tightening, the truth clawing its way up my throat, forcing its way out. Her face went pale, and for a moment, it looked like she was going to say something, maybe even apologize, but then she stopped. She looked at me, and the coldness in her eyes deepened. You had no right to look through my phone, she snapped, her voice sharp and defensive. I don't owe you that kind of transparency. I felt like the ground beneath me was slipping away. You don't owe me transparency? I repeated, my disbelief turning into a sharp edge. You've been lying to me, Lena. You've been hiding things from me, and you're telling me I have no right to know? She crossed her arms, her lips curling into something that looked almost like contempt. I don't owe you an explanation for everything, Simon. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Nothing is going on, okay? Nothing you should be worried about. The way she said it, so flatly, made me want to scream. Nothing is going on? Really? I took a step forward, the anger surging now. So the messages were what? What were they, Lena? What do you think they meant? Her face was stone cold, but I could see the fight leaving her. They meant nothing, she said, her voice breaking for just a second. You don't understand. I don't know how to explain it to you. You don't know how to explain it to me? My hands clenched into fists at my sides, the pressure building inside of me like a pressure cooker. Lena, I'm not stupid. I can read the messages. I can see what's happening here. And you can't keep pretending like everything is fine. She sighed, looking away, the exhaustion and guilt in her eyes finally breaking through the walls she had built. I never meant for it to get this far, Simon. But I didn't know how to stop it. I didn't know how to tell you. Tell me what? I said, my voice cracking. That you've been seeing someone else behind my back. That you've been lying to me for months? How long has this been going on, Lena? She flinched at the words, but then, finally, she spoke, the truth tumbling out in a quiet, broken confession. I didn't want to hurt you. I never meant to hurt you. But I've been seeing Ethan for a while now. It started as something small, just a connection, someone who understood me in ways that you didn't. I didn't want to feel this way. I didn't want it to turn into something bigger. But it did, and I didn't know how to stop it. The words hung in the air between us, each one feeling heavier than the last. I couldn't breathe. Everything I thought I knew about my marriage, about the woman I loved, was slipping away like sand through my fingers. You've been seeing him this whole time? My voice was barely a whisper, like the words themselves were too painful to say aloud. Lena nodded, her eyes not meeting mine. I'm sorry, Simon. I never meant for it to go this far. But I couldn't keep pretending that I was happy when I wasn't. And I didn't know how to tell you. I stood there, frozen, trying to make sense of everything. My mind raced with thoughts I couldn't catch. The betrayal stung, deeper than I ever thought possible. The woman I had trusted, the woman I had built a life with, had been hiding this from me. And all this time, I had been too blind to see it. For the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to fix this, or if it could even be fixed at all. And as I looked at Lena, standing there, broken and vulnerable in front of me, I realized one thing. Nothing would ever be the same again. The silence that followed Lena's confession was suffocating. I stood there, barely able to process her words. My mind was a whirlwind of disbelief, hurt, and confusion. I had never imagined anything like this. I didn't know how to react, what to say. My world felt like it was crumbling around me. Lena was still standing there, her body stiff, her eyes avoiding mine, as if the weight of her own words was too much for her to bear. I wanted to yell, to scream, to demand answers for every moment I had spent being oblivious to what was happening right under my nose. But all I could manage was silence. My throat felt tight, like I couldn't speak even if I wanted to. I didn't want to hurt you, Lena said, her voice shaking now. I never wanted this to happen. But I've been feeling lost for a long time, Simon. And I just found someone who made me feel like myself again. Someone who listened. I wanted to argue, to tell her how wrong she was. I wanted to tell her that she could have come to me, that we could have fixed things, that we could have talked about whatever was missing. But the truth was, I didn't know where to start. How do you fix something that's already shattered? How do you rebuild trust when it's been torn apart so completely? So, Ethan, I managed to say, my voice barely audible. He's been there for you in ways I couldn't? Is that what you're saying? Lena nodded, her eyes brimming with tears. Yes. I know it sounds terrible, but yes. I didn't want to feel like this, Simon. But I couldn't stop it. I couldn't fix what was broken between us. The pain in her voice cut through me like a knife. I wanted to believe her, to somehow make sense of what she was saying, but it all felt so wrong. How long had she been feeling this way? How long had I been blind to her needs, to the cracks that were forming in our relationship? You could have told me, I said, finally finding my voice. You could have told me you were unhappy. You could have talked to me before this, before all of this. I know, she whispered, her hands trembling. But I was scared. I was scared that if I told you, everything would fall apart. And it did. I never wanted to hurt you, Simon. But I didn't know how else to deal with it. Her words felt like a hollow apology. I could hear the regret in her voice, but it didn't change the fact that everything between us had changed. It was too late for apologies. Too late for excuses. The damage had been done, and I wasn't sure we could fix it, no matter how hard we tried. I took a step back, my mind racing. So what now, Lena? What are we supposed to do? You've been seeing him, and now what? You expect me to just forgive you and move on? She didn't answer immediately, her gaze falling to the floor. I don't know, Simon, she said softly. I don't know if forgiveness is even possible. But I didn't want to keep lying to you. I didn't want to keep pretending like everything was fine when it wasn't. I shook my head, my frustration bubbling to the surface. You've been lying to me for months, Lena. You've been hiding this from me, and now you expect me to just accept it? To understand why you did it? Her shoulders sagged, and she let out a long, weary sigh. I don't expect you to understand. I don't even understand it myself. All I know is that I've made a mess of everything, and I don't know how to fix it. I was at a loss for words. The woman I had built my life with, the woman I had trusted more than anyone, had betrayed me. And worse, she seemed just as lost as I was. I didn't know how to navigate this. I didn't know what to do next. For the first time in a long time, I felt completely alone. The following days felt like a fog. I didn't sleep much. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, images of Lena and Ethan flooded my mind. I kept replaying the moment when she had confessed everything, each word echoing louder than the last. The worst part wasn't the betrayal, it was the uncertainty. I had no idea where we stood anymore. I had no idea who I was, who she was, or if we could ever go back to what we once had. Lena seemed distant in the days that followed, even more than before. She'd avoid looking at me, her eyes filled with guilt, but she never said anything more. It was as if we were both stuck in this uncomfortable limbo, each of us trying to figure out what to do next, but neither of us willing to take the first step. I had tried to talk to her, tried to get more answers, but the more I pressed, the more she pulled away. Every time I asked her about Ethan, she shut down. It felt like every word was a boundary I couldn't cross. It was like there was an invisible wall between us now, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't break through. One evening, after another night of silence between us, I couldn't take it anymore. I needed to know the truth, all of it. So, I decided to do something I never thought I would. I was going to confront Ethan. I wasn't sure how I would find him. I didn't even know where to begin. But I had to. I needed answers. I had to understand why this had happened. Was he just a random guy, a fling? Or was there something more to it? Was Lena's affection for him deeper than I'd been told? I spent hours searching through social media, looking for anything I could find on Ethan. I felt like a detective, each click on my screen adding more and more weight to the pit in my stomach. The deeper I dug, the more unsettling it became. The man I was about to face wasn't just some stranger. No, he was someone who had been entwined in my life in ways I hadn't even realized. The connections, the hidden messages, it all led to one conclusion. Ethan had been more than just a passing distraction for Lena. I found his profile eventually. A simple photo of him standing in front of a beach, a relaxed smile on his face. Nothing too fancy, but there was something about it, something that triggered an unsettling feeling in me. This wasn't some random person. This was someone who had become a fixture in our lives, whether I knew it or not. I stared at his profile for a moment, wondering if he knew who I was, if he even cared. Did he feel guilty? Did he know the chaos he had unleashed? Or was he just as unaware of the damage he was causing as I had been, too blind to see it until it was too late? I decided I couldn't wait any longer. The curiosity and the anger were consuming me. I had to see him face to face. I had to confront him, ask him questions, get some kind of closure. That night, I didn't tell Lena where I was going. I just left. I couldn't bear the thought of her stopping me, of her telling me it was a bad idea. I had to do this, even if it meant ruining whatever was left of our marriage. I had to get the truth, no matter the cost. I drove across town, my heart pounding in my chest with every mile. The closer I got, the more I could feel the tension building in my body. What would I say to him? How would I approach him? Part of me wanted to scream, to demand answers. Another part of me just wanted to hear him admit what he had done, to hear him acknowledge the damage he'd caused. I parked in front of a small apartment building where his profile said he lived. It looked ordinary enough, nothing fancy, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this was the place where my life had started unraveling, the place where Lena had chosen to keep secrets. I took a deep breath, opened the car door, and walked toward the building. The weight of what I was about to do felt heavy in my chest, but I didn't stop. I had to know. I reached the door and rang the bell, my hand trembling slightly. I could hear footsteps from inside, then the sound of the door unlocking. When the door opened, Ethan stood there, looking every bit like the man Lena had been talking to. But now, his casual demeanor felt wrong. I wasn't just meeting him as a stranger. I was meeting the man who had become the cause of everything that had gone wrong in my life. For a moment, neither of us said anything. He studied me with a neutral expression, as if unsure of how to respond. But I knew. I knew why I was there. I had to know the truth, and I wasn't leaving until I got it. "So, you're Ethan," I said, my voice steady but filled with a quiet fury. He took a step back, his eyes widening as if he recognized me. "Yeah, I am. Who are you?" he asked, his tone more defensive than I expected. "I'm Simon," I said, the words feeling like a punch. "Lena's husband, and we need to talk." Ethan stood there for a moment, staring at me as if he hadn't expected the confrontation. I could see the hesitation in his eyes, but I wasn't backing down now. I needed answers. No more lies, no more hiding. I needed to hear the truth, straight from him. "I didn't know you were married," he finally said, his voice guarded. I didn't. I cut him off, my words sharper than I intended. "I don't care about your excuses. I don't care about how it happened. I want to know why it happened. Why Lena didn't come to me. Why she chose to keep this from me. Why you both thought it was okay to keep secrets." Ethan looked down for a moment, clearly uncomfortable, before meeting my gaze again. "Look, I never meant to hurt you. I care about Lena, but I didn't know she was married at first. When I found out, I felt guilty, but I didn't know how to pull away either. I wasn't trying to destroy your life. I just got caught up in something I shouldn't have." The sincerity in his voice caught me off guard, and for the first time since I'd driven over here, I felt a little bit of the weight lifting. Ethan wasn't the villain I had painted him to be in my mind. He was just a man caught in a complicated situation, maybe as lost as I was. I took a deep breath, the anger that had been consuming me starting to dissipate. "I'm not here to blame you, Ethan. I just wanted to understand. And now I need to figure out how to fix things with Lena. I need to figure out how to fix myself." He nodded, understanding now. "I get it. I really do. Look, Simon, you've got a tough road ahead, but you can get through this. If Lena's willing to try, you've got to be ready to meet her halfway. But only if you really want it. I think she still loves you, deep down." Those words, simple as they were, hit me like a wave. For the first time, I realized I had a choice. I could let all this anger consume me, and walk away from everything I'd worked for. Or I could take a step toward healing, toward rebuilding. Not just with Lena, but with myself too. Thanks, I said to Ethan, surprising even myself with the sincerity in my voice. I don't know if I'll ever fully forgive what's happened, but I'm going to try. For the both of us. He gave me a small, almost relieved smile. You'll figure it out, man. You really will. I walked back to my car, the cold night air feeling less oppressive than before. I wasn't sure what the future held for Lena and me. I didn't know if things could ever go back to how they were, or if we were forever changed. But I knew one thing. I wasn't going to give up without a fight. The next day, I sat down with Lena, my heart racing but my mind clearer than it had been in weeks. I told her everything, what I had learned, how I had confronted Ethan, and how, despite everything, I still wanted to try. We both cried that day, for all the pain, the broken trust, and the hurt we'd caused each other. But in that moment, I realized that healing was possible. It wasn't going to be easy, and it wasn't going to happen overnight. But it was possible, and that's when we decided we would rebuild, not as the people we once were, but as the people we were becoming. Together. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. It wasn't perfect, but it was a new beginning, one built on honesty, vulnerability, and the willingness to try again. And for the first time in months, I truly believed that maybe, just maybe, things could get better.